unscripted.
I think we have to face facts. Regardless of what Microsoft might say, they're clearly going after Sony, and they're going to clearly go after Sony pretty hard. Obviously, with a lower price SKU for an Xbox Series S, among other things. There's plenty of reasons why Microsoft are pretty much going after Sony more so than they like to let on. First of all, there's not really much of a need to go after Google, seeing how Stadia is basically DOA as it is, and they're not known for actually sticking around in places where they're not going to make a ton of money right away. So I wouldn't expect them to last much more than a couple more years. So realistically, everybody's been pretty lukewarm on the whole idea of cloud gaming to begin with. But with that being said, you can understand a little bit why Microsoft might have went on the offensive there, and they didn't go crazy, I don't think. I mean, having your own kind of thing to combat possibly Amazon and Google was smart. Sony's did that at the beginning of the generation, and people, like I said, were pretty much lukewarm to it. But again, Microsoft is very much competing with Sony, again, despite whatever they lead you to believe. We all want to think that Phil Spencer's like this super nice guy, and I'm sure that he is a nice guy in general. I'm just saying, he's not completely forthright when it comes down to actually delivering what he promises, or the things that he says. Like one day he's saying that that the Xbox Series X is going to support 8K, and there's an 8K on the chip, and then the next day he says 8K is not going to be a big deal, and they're not really worried about shipping anything at 8K and things like that. So one day when he's trying to sell you a 4K 30 machine, he's saying the frame rates don't matter. And now that he's trying to sell you a console that can do 60 and beyond, of course, now all of a sudden it does matter. So, you could tell that these things sort of go back and forth. But at the end of the day, I think that both Sony and Microsoft are clearly going after each other, and they're clearly trying to one-up each other. I think one of the bigger things that Sony did was obviously buy Insomniac Games. And one of the things that is really going to be a bad problem for Sony is this Bethesda deal. If Microsoft goes ahead, and it looks like they will, makes their things mostly exclusive, it makes a lot of sense for Microsoft to do that, right? Microsoft spent $7.5 billion. Make your stuff exclusive. Make it so people have to buy or use your platform in order to go out there and successfully use any of your games and utilize your games. And I think that makes a ton of sense from a business standpoint, as well as a standpoint to make people kind of want your ecosystem or whatever, right? Let's face it, Microsoft is more of a ecosystem than anything at this particular point, and I don't really see that changing, or any time down the line. I just consider that to be, they'll continue to go that way, whether things are even more so. Like right now, they're on PC, they're on phones, and they're on a box, but you would totally expect them to also do TVs later as well. You can imagine, doing some kind of deal with Samsung or something along those lines. They already have a deal with Samsung phones, but imagine, doing a deal with Samsung TVs where, Xbox Game Pass, xCloud is included in that as well, because I can remember Sony actually did that early on with PlayStation Now, and it wasn't really much of a success, honestly. So there is that to sort of kind of look at when you see things, right? Like, hey, this thing didn't maybe do exactly as good as what people thought it would do, but Microsoft, they're not. If anything, they're pretty persistent, and they keep trying things, even maybe where they continually fail, but they do at least keep trying them. And again, I do have to say that this is the right thing for them to do. And even if you're a PlayStation person or a PlayStation fan, you can't really fault them, right? Like when Sony bought Insomniac Games, you knew that if they ever make a Sunset Overdrive sequel, that's not going to be on Xbox. It's just not going to be on Xbox. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. But you also know that that's just how business works. Microsoft bought Bethesda, even though it's not a same type of situation with Minecraft. It sort of is different. So again, it looks like Microsoft are going to go ahead and not pull things off of PlayStation, but looks like that their games are just going to skip like PlayStation 5 and things like that going forward, as collections of some of Bethesda's single-player titles are out today on PS4 in the form of Dishonored and Prey, the Arcane Collection, and the Wolfenstein, the Alternate History Bundle, and it appears that these collections might skip to PlayStation 5, only coming to next gen on Xbox Series S and X. These collections have gone on Best Buy in the US. They've gone on sale today. The Wolfenstein bundle includes Wolfenstein New Order, Wolfenstein The Old Blood, Wolfenstein 2 The New Colossus, and Wolfenstein Youngblood, while the Arcane Collection includes 2017's Prey, Dishonored Definitive Edition, Dishonored 2, Dishonored Death of the Outsider. But while these collections are out on PlayStation 4, it looks like they're going to skip the PlayStation 5, as IGN and various outlets reports that both collections have been rated for Xbox Series S and X, with no mention of the PlayStation 5 release anywhere, which obviously is probably due in part to Microsoft's recent acquisition of Bethesda's parent company ZeniMax. No official word yet, but of course, obviously, this is looking more and more like the case. Like, I wouldn't expect them to pull anything off of off of PlayStation. Like, if you're playing Fallout 76 or whatever, I wouldn't expect that. But I also would just say I would totally expect Microsoft to, if Starfield comes out this year or next year or the year after or whatever, that to be exclusive, and for them to make the games exclusive. I mean, you don't pay, if you're going to pay $7.5 billion for something, you better reap some benefits of it. And putting it on other platforms, yeah, you'd reap the money benefits, but you don't necessarily reap benefits for your own stuff like Game Pass. If Game Pass really is their future, then you need content realistically that's not available elsewhere. Just the way that Netflix does it, or Hulu, or Disney Plus, all these different companies that are doing sort of this type of thing, it's going to be a constant thing where they're going to need to constantly feed the machine that is Xbox Game Pass. And I do feel like that's something that's going to end up being costly. Is it going to work out for them at the end of the day? Listen, I have no idea. I think none of us really know if that's going to be the case. But, at the same time, I think that that's something that they're actually going after and that they want to be the case. I do feel like that's something that just makes a lot of sense. If you're Xbox, you've got to think that, hey, we've got this service that we're going to try to sell. We need tons of content, and the best way to get that content would be how? It would be the easiest thing to do, honestly, would be to sit there and to obviously use and utilize their purchases. They bought them, bought Bethesda, put the Bethesda games in there. Whoever else they might buy or down the line, you do that the same way. And same thing, it's just a business, and you got to work that same way. By basically doing the same thing. If you're Sony, you bought Insomniac Games, that those games are going to be exclusive, and you're going to continue to sort of do that with your games and your studios as well. That's business. And look, if you're a PlayStation fan, listen, that's something that's going to have to do. You're gonna have to just face the facts. Like, there's not really any two ways about it. It looks like Microsoft made the bold choice. They made a bold pickup. They spent the money. They got, they're doing what they're doing. And at the end of the day, you can't really fault them. But that is a problem for Sony going forward, saying, hey, we don't really have any Bethesda games or anything like that. Hopefully, they can make up for it in other areas. But at the end of the day, like, for me personally, I don't really necessarily look at Bethesda games. Even if I was just a PlayStation only person, obviously I'm not, but I wouldn't look at it as a huge loss, because I'm not really a person that's into, the Fallouts and, that kind of stuff. That stuff doesn't really interest me, and never really has. The only Elder Scrolls games I've liked was Skyrim, and I didn't like any of the other ones outside of that. I bought Skyrim, I think, 3 times, including a VR version. But other than that, that's a big old nope. I didn't bother with it. I never played the Prey reboot. I didn't play, Dishonored or Dishonored 2. I didn't play any of that stuff. I did play Wolfenstein, The New Order. I thought that was okay. I got to a certain point and stopped playing. I did get Wolfenstein 2, and I never even booted it up. I hear that Youngblood was pretty bad though. So you know, again, they aren't really necessarily my thing. Like Fallout 76 is a wreck, and I can't stand Fallout to begin with. So you know, again, it's something I guess each and every one of us has to decide what we're gonna pick for our own selves. But at the end of the day, Microsoft, there's other options that you can get and play their games. One being obviously you can choose to play their games on a phone or something like that, and Microsoft is just as fine with that as you buying a console for whatever reason. So yeah, you know, I do feel like, you know, there's people going to have to kind of deal with that and come to terms with it. And is it going to be a problem for Sony? Sure. Are they going to have to make up for it? Sure. Is it something to really specifically worry about at this particular time? Nope. I don't really see that. So anyway, I'm going to link this. Let me know what you guys think. Are you guys upset about, you know, them cutting out the PlayStation 5 going forward, it looks like? Or are you just thinking that's just business and got to respect it from a business standpoint? Because hell, you know, Sony does a really good job with doing their business and kind of shoving it down Microsoft's throat. I think Microsoft is just paying them back a little bit here. And I actually like the back and forth and the actual, you know, sort of competition is really sort of paying off extremely well. So let me know what you guys think. Sound off, rate, comment, subscribe. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Rack 'em up. Game on, my friends. Game on. Crapgamer out.
Unscripted.